Hello everyone, Russell Wright here from ThemeZoom and Network Empire, and I am on the telephone with my friend Brian McFarland, and he has been with us in Mesa, Arizona for a couple of weeks, taking what we now call the ThemeZoom Network Empire Domain Web Studio live event or live certification. And he has returned home to Canada and emailed us and let us know that he landed a large contract that we were working on when he visited us for our certification event, and that of course made everybody on our team incredibly happy and excited. It was an amazing project. Actually working with Brian in that live event was quite an eye-opener for us because we were implementing a lot of different things. We were working with Kraken and ThemeZoom. We were also working with the perpetual lead magnet machine, which is our online-offline business process. And we were also getting tips, ideas, and exchanging value ideas with Brian on how to improve the Domain Web Studio, full-service SEO and online outsourcing and website silo architecture technologies. Well, Brian, I really appreciate you getting on the phone now that you have all this work and taking the time out and filling us in on what's happened.
Yeah, I was very fortunate to spend 8 quality days down in Mesa, Arizona with Sue and Russell and Matt, and it was extremely valuable. And when I came back, first thing I did was took action on all the skills that I had obtained there, and we created a presentation for that client, and we closed the deal about a week after we had come back from Mesa, Arizona, and
Right.
we were super excited to get this large client. It was, I guess, in our opinion, our first pretty major client in the renewable energy sector. So we were.
Oh yeah, no, we had this conversation when you were here, and I actually am pretty blown away. I mean, I believed in you that you would be able to do that, but really taking that to heart and going back and getting a 5-figure contract, that's not a small.
Yeah.
That's not a small shop or amateur contract. So now you have
Nope.
work cut out for you, but you actually pulled it off. And you want to tell us a little bit about what kind of data and white papers and stuff you used and how that went over? Just let us know what happened and how that looked for you.
Well, what we had to do is, as you know, Russell, there was about 8 major phases that we had to go through when we were modeling out and developing a website using your tool set, so as part of the certification. So we had to take all of the complexity within those phases and distill them down into an easy to understand way for the client to interpret all this complex information into actionable steps that show him value through each stage. And the presentation we did was about 45 slides, but in hindsight, there was about 3 or 4 slides in that entire presentation that were the closers for that deal. And one of them, the major slides, was a review of the industry solutions ISDNA grade. So we were showing him the top level, sort of the bottom of the triangle, the major component of our added value, which was all of the, I guess, neuromarketing research or type of market research that we did that nobody else in the market was providing. So that was sort of our unique selling proposition.
Mm-hmm.
And then we broke it all down for him about all the stages that we were going to take his company through. And
Right.
then we showed him a month 1 plan, a month, month 2 and 3. And that was implementing the different promotional rings that we worked on together when we were in Mesa. And that really blew them away, and they were sold. They wrote the check basically in the meeting. So
you walked out of that meeting with a check.
Yeah, we walked out of the meeting with a check, and it was pretty amazing. It was quite emotional for us because
I bet.
It was our first big, multi, 5-figure contract. So we were very stoked, and we got into it right away. And right now, our web developer is working on the redesign, and I'm working on content audit right now, and we're going through the process building out the promotional blueprint.
Yeah, you gave me permission to, talk to our listeners about the kind of industry. You're in the energy industry with this client, and I have to say that, working with you on the ISDNA, which previously has been known as the industry solution or questions of the answer, and when I talk to people in the internet marketing field, the closest thing that a lot of them are already familiar with is Mike Koenig's frequently asked questions and should ask questions, but as you know, it's quite a bit more in depth than that. I noticed that you really, working with you on that, you were the first student that I worked with that on a live event, and you really helped me to understand how to communicate it. Because since you were the first one, we'd written a lot of stuff and we've done it ourselves plenty, but it was really useful to kind of see the pin drop, have it go click. So I'm really glad that of course we're really interested in finding out more about how you presented that, just from the client side. Are there any other, what you would say, closer images, ideas, and maps, or outputs that, even if they're not anything related to our tools, that you could share that helped close that deal, or that helped that pin drop for your client, where they just felt the urge to write a check like that?
Yeah, well, obviously, we just simply broke down, we basically created mind maps and different types of scenario maps that just basically attack the pain points that the client was looking at, and we had solutions for each one of those steps, and they saw the value of each of those stages in their business model. And by the end of the meeting, the meeting actually was expected to go for 30 minutes, and that ended up being 3.5 hours. And the client had all kinds of other projects that he was talking about at the end of the meeting. So he had already bought into he was already hooked on the process that we were going to get him through. Mm-hmm. He was already starting to talk about new projects. So. Right.
What would you say there's a lot of things that we covered. I mean, it was really quite a boot camp, not just for you, but for us also, because.
Yeah, I think my head swole by about 2 inches each evening when I went back to the
I know, right? I felt bad sometimes because, I think next time we have a certification, I would take a day. I mean, I know that you went to Sedona afterwards and just took a break, which I was really glad, but I think next time we've actually talked about shortening the events, and but I'm glad that, you did have the capacity to absorb all that information. And I think it was really powerful for everybody involved. So, and because of you, I think that the process maps, the Domain Web Studio application, and even Kraken and TLKT, which we're updating right now, they'll probably be off the market for a moment for the general public as we bring them back online because we have new features for them. But I think all of our tools in general will be better because, any blind spots in the tools, for someone who's in the field all the time, which is you and your partner, that really helps improve our tool. So, how much would you say?
How much can contribute to reshaping these things? And I really value Matt's opinion too on DWS, and he's been really good along the way too. He's always been sort of poking out to me and reaching out to me to to review sections of DWS along the journey, and it's been valuable that I can contribute in some way.
Well, yeah, you're going to be pretty much legacy certified for this, as we move into the multi-million-dollar level with this application and go to full-service companies with it. After you left, we pretty much spent time honing all those functions and fixing many of the outsourcing functions and the promotion and syndication. Okay. How much would you say we have some proprietary aspects of our business, not just the one feed system, but also the one web ring to rule them all. How much would you say that the web ring modeling for this energy company was helpful in them understanding how distinct your offering was from everything else out there?
Yeah, well, on two levels. Basically, as you know, many people when they're developing or redeveloping a site, they have to do a great deal of new link building and new content development. And what we were able to do was we were able to tell him, and that's the process I'm going through right now, actually, a content audit, where we are taking a lot of their existing content, and offline and online, and we're repurposing that content and writing a lot of that content into what we call painkiller articles or PAM articles, as you explain in the PAM method.
Right.
And we're then taking a group of information and segmenting those out into different channels and using that PAM formula across social domains like Twitter and then YouTube channels. And then we're using that feed system to accelerate the whole process so that we can connect all the dots together. And applying that one feed throughout each ring. And that will just accelerate the whole process for everything. And we'll require less content because of the content will be highly targeted and highly relevant to the users. And we'll require less inbound links because of the way the silo structure is designed.
Indeed.
And that is adding value to the customer because they have to spend 90% less on their link building efforts. And we're saving them money because we're repurposing content.
Right. So the repurposing the content aspect of it, and giving them an overview of how expanded their quote empire unquote can become while saving them money on search engine rankings and using content that they already have. That's just something that what you described right there is something that most full service companies just don't. I mean, this is obviously, I think we talked about that over the many lunches that we had. You're not really an SEO anymore, are you?
What's that?
You're not really a yeah. Okay, exactly. We've trained you well.
Yes, Russell has rewired my brain.
That's what I was hoping to do.
Yes.
And in some ways you've rewired mine because really where we're going from here is I don't really consider you a student at this point. We'll probably be launching a mastermind group of Domain Web Studio certified agents, and in that process. In the mastermind group, for those listening, it requires that you do go through certification and training and go through some of the stuff that Brian has described today and get signed off on some of the technical as well as the training processes. But the mastermind group will basically consist of, all of the insider knowledge and discussions about how to improve the outputs and the communication with clients. Even if you're a small shop, we'll be revealing a lot of tips and tricks. And also, when we hear what's going on out in the field, and even with our own clients, we don't have as many clients as some of the full-service shops that use our tools. But it really we help each other to increase the size of the contract, provide better neuromarketing maps, and even changing the software if we need to provide a better understanding and a clear insight that we can convey to the client to make it actionable. For example, when you left, we added a column we've been working on for almost a year and a half called the buyer's intent column.
Okay.
And so you'll be able to run your client's keywords through there. This was an idea that Sue and I have been working on since, I think, 2008 when Microsoft released its buyer intent column for keywords. And it was fairly sophisticated, and we've been improving it. And now you'll be able to see whether or not the words in that industry are more educational or whether they're high buyer. And you pretty much do have that with pay-per-click in general, but we've honed it to tell you exactly in relationship to your clients. We had some of this was inspired by some conversations that we had when you were here. And we wanted to finish that application because you're in an industry where there are a lot of educational terms. And
one point there on that note is I had a recent author approach me, and he had a person who was working for him. I guess you call him an agent, but he was a business partner.
Sure.
And it turned out that he had met with at least 10 SEO firms, and some of those firms were the largest ones in Canada before he had met me. And they came back to me and hired me recently only because of what I learned in Arizona and the holistic approach that I was taking to their business. And what he found was that nobody that he had talked to, all these SEO firms, they were all talking about keywords and about rankings, but they really didn't care anything about his business.
Right. This is really what's going on. It's like this is the biggest challenge that I have, and I knew that when you offered to collaborate and partner with our company on marketing with us and the rest, that you wouldn't have time once you knew this stuff, because I knew you'd start closing deals left and right. But I would say that this is the challenge, and something that you talked to me about. We have to really focus on teaching people to step away from SEO, search engine optimization, and really being an online business strategist and executive empire consultant, a company essentially. And
one thing I did do is I've set aside Fridays for myself for self-training, and
Oh,
that's
excellent.
completely devoted to, spending that whole day as much as I can just relearning a lot of things that I learned in Meza, but also, reading some of the books that you suggested, or, trying to understand my clients' business profiles a little bit more beyond just what they're presenting to me in a meeting.
Yes. Yes. Really exciting stuff. And I think as we move forward with our mastermind groups and other graduated students, your input and leadership is really required. There's not been tools out this like that before where you can pull in 5- and 6-figure contracts with that kind of insight. And, so we'll move more into the business strategy. We're really in a unique time. I'll insert this here. We're in a time where online business coaching and online business strategies as well as offline business strategies are kind of colliding with mass social media, real-time news curation, RSS integration, as well as all the leftover residuals of SEO and the SEO industry, of which I've been a part since its beginnings. And you've been around doing this for quite a while. We're in a new era. We're going to have to come up with some new names for what's happening right now. And really, that's why we're usually the first to name new market macro trends, and I call this cybernetics. And I didn't really explain that well during your training, but we had a training right following yours. And I love having physical trainings because I can see in someone's eyes when they're actually getting it. And instead of using cybernetics, really I'm able to use the fusion of the machine world with the human world. We're in a time now where all of the skills required to be a business coach, and more than a business coach, an online advisor or a business advisor with experience with SEO, social media, and online traffic and marketing generation. That's really a combination of machine world skills required in SEO, on-page, off-page factors and ranking factors and all these things, literally fused together with understanding the sales process and understanding how human beings respond in both the digital environment and the human environment. And when you put all these things together, you have a process that is unprecedented by most of the technologies out there. So you have an amazing process, the perpetual lead magnet machine, which is just simply a stackable business process that helps people build large-scale stackable business systems online, combined with all the search engine optimization tools, website style architecture to make it easier to rank. And it's an amazing challenge to be able to communicate something new when it comes along when you're an early adopter. But you've really helped us, understand how we might be able to communicate that better. So that's the angle that I'm taking, Brian, is like what the perpetual lead magnet machine is, and Domain Web Studio is a cybernetic business tool to help you land higher paying clients for less, or build your own personal empire with total clarity and insight into not just the machine world of SEO and high rankings and how all the robots work, but also how human beings will respond and pay you money for your product or services online. Does that make sense?
The biggest takeaway from me is just getting out of that, trying to appease the search engines and working in the bot mode. And what was great about the training is that it humanized a lot of those processes, and it helped me to understand that we have to have a balanced approach to how we do this, and it's worked out really, really well. And now we're just simply going forward and implementing these strategies and testing them and breaking them, and we'll probably get our elbows a little dirty on this first project, but it's been like we'll be staying students on this process because you guys will always continue to improve the products.
We will. And I'm very, very grateful for your presence there, and I can't wait for you to come to 2.0, Training 2.0 in the upcoming years, probably next year. And I really appreciate you taking the time out to reveal some of the secrets that you used to close, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to extract some other great closing techniques, methods, and graphs from your brain for the rest of our users.
Perhaps we'll share that presentation with your users at some time in the very near future.
I better be careful what you say on audio because they'll be clamoring at the gates. All right, Brian. Thank you so much. Brian McFarland, folks. And what is your domain? I know that you haven't got your full-service company site up and running totally yet, but what is the domain name of your company?
Yeah, we will be redesigning that and getting that up shortly. It's datarati.net, datarati.net.
And I want to take a little moment there for our listeners who might be thinking that you have to launch your full service or your client-based website before you make five-figure checks and contracts. Brian's an example of how that's definitely not true. He is landing contracts. He's too busy working, too busy making money to build his company website. So
Yep.
That's fantastic. Brian, thank you so much.